Okay, what about 4 or 5 and up? Yes? All right, awesome. So I absolutely love these workshops because the biggest reason why you guys come here in the first place, I hope it's not to just get out of pain, right? Is if my job, if Dr. Whiteshot, this team's job is to get you out of pain, right? Then you're just gonna die earlier with less pain if you don't know how to actually be healthier. Does that make sense? So the Adio Chiropractic as a team, our mission, our goal is to truly get you guys as healthy as possible to your God-given potential so that you can do more of the things that you're created to do. Does that make sense? More of the things that you want to do and not just live a life in pain or without pain. Does that make sense? And a big part of showing up to these workshops, this is truly where you're going to get the action steps that you really need and also the education that you need to make better decisions, not just for yourself, but we hope my vision for you is that you can actually be a leadership figure in health to your, not just your family, but your friends and the people that are around you. Does that make sense? So if you are a note taker, if you have your phone out, or whatever it may be, at the top, I want you to write 1, 2, and 3. And here's why. Those are going to be the 3 action steps that you're going to promise yourself that you're going to take after you leave this place. Because you can learn all the things that you want about gut health and about just health in general, but if you don't do anything about it, it's a waste of time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So while we're going to go through a lot of good information just on the foundational level, but also the action steps is what's really going to change your life. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the reason why we do this workshop, like we talked about, it's our mission to inspire you guys, inspire the people to honor the innate wisdom of the human body. Because our body is designed to heal. Is that a fact? Yes, we're designed to heal. If you get a cut on your foot, you don't have to give it a single thought for that cut to heal. We're innately designed that way. Also, we want you to live a life free from interference. And we'll talk about what that really means. So when it comes to gut health, Hippocrates, the famous philosopher, said that all diseases begin in the gut. I want to challenge that statement for a minute, right? A lot of diseases are linked to the overall health of your gut, but at the end of the day, what controls your gut? There's a cheat sheet right here. Yeah, exactly. Your brain and your nervous system, so that's foundational. But we really cannot avoid the health of your gut despite that fact, okay? Because what we know to be true is that all the lists of disease that you see on the screen here, autoimmune diseases, brain disorders, and cognitive decline, you think about things like schizophrenia and things like dementia, different types of cancer, fatigue, joint pain, mood disorders, learning disabilities, fertility issues, asthma, and sensitivity has all been linked to improper gut health. So we have to look at the cause of it, okay? The foundation of how we're going to look at this workshop is this major premise, that your body's already designed to heal. So in order to do health better, you guys can see the underline, you guys have to learn how to heal your body better and provide the right tools that you actually need to allow it to function properly, okay? And when we look at, just like you guys talked about, what controls everything in your body is your nervous system, right? As chiropractors, listen, I used to be the biggest skeptic of chiropractors before I actually became one, because my first chiropractor, he adjusted me and I felt great. He looked at me, he's like, come back when you hurt again, right? So I got this idea that chiropractors are just pain doctors, but I never realized, some of you guys that are patients here, that we first look at the nervous system, which controls everything in your body. No matter how much you look at the organ or the symptoms itself, if you don't get to the cause and get to the foundation, you're never going to be able to heal properly. Does that make sense? Now, this is where allopathy or traditional medicine differs from how we look at things, vitalism or holistic view, okay? So if you think about allopathy, the traditional medical model, when they look at you, they look at the body as a material entity. It's a sum of its own parts. If you have a stomach problem, let's look at the stomach, right? If you have a kidney problem, let's look at the kidneys. If you have a heart problem, let's look at the heart. There's specialists for everything. Does that make sense? When we look at how we look at it, we look at the body that as function as a whole. One thing leads to another, and one part of our body influences the next, and you're stuck in this cycle. The allopathy also, there's one cause to any specific diseases, and it goes in the third bullet here, opposite is a cure, guided by scientific methods. So you think about antibiotics, antivirals. They think that, hey, this one bacteria is the cause of your sickness and disease, or this one virus is the cause of your sickness. But how we look at things is disease is existent in the absence of health. Here's what I mean by that. We live in a world right now where we want to remove all the bacteria in the world. We want to remove all the viruses in the world, right? But when we look at just our skin or our environment in general, it's impossible. There's more bacteria and virus on our skin than actual human cells, right? Because all of you guys are sitting in this room right now. If I put one virus in here, some of you guys may get sick, some of you guys won't. Some of you guys might have to go to the hospital because of that virus. Some of you guys won't even feel a thing, right? So when you look at sickness and disease and symptoms, we look at it that your body just cannot heal or adapt to that stressor, and now you have all these problems. So what's the common denominator? Let's strengthen the body so that it can adapt to your environment. Is that making sense, guys? Lastly, treatment goes through a pharmaceutical or surgical intervention. Listen, there's time and place for this. There's time and place for medications. There's time and place for procedures. I call that crisis care. If you're in a crisis, if your blood pressure's through the roof, or if you're in a car accident, you're in the best place on the earth. We're really good at crisis care. Go and get that medication. Go and get that procedure, but you're not meant to take that or live that way for the rest of your life, right? So treatment through re-establishing physiological function of the body. It's all about function. We would just want your body to function to its God-given potential so that it can heal. And the traditional medical model right now, this allopathic worldview is just simply not working. Because when you look at the statistics, 133 million Americans, or about half of the population, that's including children right now, suffer from at least one chronic disease, at least one. So when you look at the younger generations now, if you look at our school bus stops right now, are kids getting healthier or are they getting sicker? They're getting sicker. And what studies have shown is that they're getting diagnosed with chronic diseases sooner than ever before. They're getting diagnosed or prescribed medication sooner than any generations before. And I read this shocking statistic preparing for this workshop. It said, right now in the United States, our health starts to decline at the ripe age of 27. And that's not slowing down. So you can imagine, I'm 27 years old. It means from this point on, statistically speaking, that my health is gonna start to go downhill, right? And if you guys read the newsletter, if you guys look at our average lifespan in the United States, it's continuously going down. We're actually the only industrialized country that's actually doing that, right? So what we're doing is simply not working. So we're gonna switch pages here to look at the digestive system. So we first thought that the digestive system is simply a tube from your mouth to your anus, right? But what we know to be true is much, much more complex than that. When we look at the digestive system, we have to not look at just the GI tract, but the big three solid organs, like the pancreas, which controls the digestive enzymes that's going to not just control your blood sugar levels, but digest proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats. The liver is not only designed to detoxify your body, but it creates something called bile, which is actually used to actually digest and absorb fats and different vitamins. So we'll get into details in just a minute. And the last thing is the gallbladder, all right? And this is something I really want to spend some time on later on, because gallbladder is seen as that organ that you can just take out of your system, right? But it has a very vital mechanism that is actually necessary for your body. If you don't have it, then you're actually missing a huge chunk of your digestive system. We'll talk about it in just a moment. So the star of the show when it comes to the digestive system is what we call the microbiome, right? It's not a surprise at this point that within our gut, there's trillions and trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi. And it's just this beautiful ecosystem within your digestive system that's perfect for these living organisms to actually interact and live, all right? And some of you guys might be like, oh, there's bacteria living inside me, that's not good. But there's good bacteria within our digestive system that actually goes along with your circadian rhythm, right? And it also actually changes this genetic material so that you can digest things and also respond to immune system well as you age and as you go throughout different experiences of life. It's very important to have that nice, good balance. And there's three keys to your digestive systems working well. And it's very simple. First one is digestion. This higher organ actually takes the food that you eat and break it down. It's as simple as that. Next thing, absorption. When you break down those foods, is your body actually able to assimilate it or actually use the nutrients? You have no idea how many people there are out there that will eat the right things, eat all the kale, all the grass-fed beef, and all the pasture-raised chicken, but if you're not actually able to absorb it into your system properly, you're actually making more expensive waste. And the last thing is the elimination component, the process of your body absorbing whatever it needs, and is it able to completely excrete it or eliminate from your system? So when I ask people, hey, are you regular? They'll say, yeah, I'm regular. I go every 2 days, right? Or 2 or 3 times a week. The definition of being regular is if you eat 3 times a day, you should go 3 times a day, right? That's what it means by regular. If you're not, then you might be actually building up more toxins in your system. Does that make sense? And one day your body says, okay, I need to get it out, right? And you guys know what happens. And the body always starts to send signals. What I mean by signal is when you have those symptoms, right? We live in a culture right now, when we start to feel bad, what's the first thing that we like to do? Go to urgent care, right? What would you say?
Go to the bathroom and try to relieve.
Yeah. So we like to take our medications, over-the-counter medications, right? When we start to feel bad, a lot of us don't like to take it, but oftentimes we're taught to, hey, if you have this symptom, there's a perfect pill for it. If you have this symptom, let's go and get the ibuprofen, right? Let's take the Tylenol because it apparently does everything, right? But if you hear anything that I say tonight, is that first thing that we need to do is just to take the earmuffs off, right? Because your body is extremely intelligent. When you have that symptom, your body's just trying to communicate with you. Hey, there's something going on. Look inside. Look at the cause. Does that make sense? And some of those signals to the digestive system, when it starts to dysfunction, are these symptoms: bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, nausea, diarrhea. And these symptoms have become so common that we oftentimes just dismiss it, right? Oh, I'm just bloated today, right? Oh, I'm just a little nauseous. Every time I eat this, I feel this way. Or I hear it all the time in the progress evaluation, hey, when I eat a certain food, I don't know what it is. Sometimes I feel good, sometimes I get bloated, sometimes I get nauseous, sometimes I don't, right? That's your digestive system that's just not functioning the way it should. So you have to take earmuffs and start to listen, because these could be signs of something called leaky gut. Who has heard of leaky gut before? A lot of you guys have, right? And it's just exactly what it sounds like. When it comes to a leaky gut, I drew this beautiful diagram here, and I'll explain it in just a minute. Imagine that this right here is your digestive system. And this is where the food starts to pass through, right? And these squares are what we call epithelial cells, or your digestive system, right? It's made out of different cells. And with it, on top of those cells, there's a mucus line that actually protects the lining of your stomach, of your intestines, etc. But when we start to eat these foods that's more harmful to your body, or even stresses of life, what happens is over time, as food passes through your digestive system, it starts to wear on that mucus layer. And eventually you start to get holes in it. And over time, this digestive system, the cells starts to get tired, and the tight junctions, which is this gap between the cells here, start to get wider and wider. Because these cells, the tight junctions, are designed so that the good stuff, the nutrients that it needs, passes through to the bloodstream. And what's not supposed to, like toxins and bad bacteria or inflammatory markers, are not meant to pass through. But over time, when this mucus gets damaged and the cells start to open up, different proteins and different things that shouldn't be in your blood starts to get through. So this is where your inflammation in your body goes up from the inside out. Can that cause joint pain? Absolutely can. Can that cause your cholesterol to go up? Because your body thinks it's going through damage, right? If this happens at a young age, right, and we start introducing new foods like dairy, like eggs, right, shellfish, right? If that gets through their blood and their immune system's not quite used to that food yet, is it going to increase their sensitivity to that food? right? All of a sudden you start to have allergies. All of a sudden you can't eat the stuff that you ate your whole life because you start reacting to it. This is exactly why. That's what we call the leaky gut. And when different biomarkers is called lipopolysaccharides, which are inflammatory toxins in your gut, starts to get more into your bloodstream, this has been actually linked to things like depression, dementia, and schizophrenia. And we'll talk about how that works in just a moment. Next, on top of leaky gut, there's something called SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Everybody has heard of leaky gut, but not many people have heard of SIBO. So SIBO is when there's an overgrowth of bacteria that is within your small intestines. And this doesn't just have to be the bad bacteria. You can have an overgrowth of good bacteria as well. So these are the patients or people who take probiotics or fiber and you don't really respond well. You start to get nauseated, right? You start to have bloating, digestive issues because there's just too much bacteria within your system. And SIBO, by the time you get to this, you have to be extremely methodical and systemic to the way that you treat this unless you're gonna have it for a long, long period of time. And how common is SIBO? It's estimated that 80% of people who have irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, also have SIBO. And this, just like the leaky gut, everybody's heard of some type of irritable bowel syndrome, or people say, I got diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. And let me be honest with you guys, irritable bowel syndrome is one of those diagnoses that's a catch-all, right? When they can't figure out why you have digestive issues, they say, oh, you have IBS. What do I do with it, right? What do I do after that? They're like, well, take more probiotics, right? Or they'll say, oh, eat less dairy. And you have all these blanket recommendations, but it's not really doing anything at the end of the day. Because just like I said, SIBO, look at the symptoms here. Does that look pretty familiar to our day-to-day? So extremely difficult to know, do I have SIBO? Do I have leaky gut? Or did I just eat something bad that day? That's why when we get to the later part of the stages, it's so important that we get to the cause and we find a specific way to determine what we have so that we can take this systemic protocol to get well. Next, why is your gut health so important? It's because over 70% of your immune system is housed in your gut. This ecosystem in your gut is so important. Because when we think about our kids getting sick all the time, right? Or they have chronic ear infections, or us, we're susceptible to getting sick, we get colds, we get viruses all the time. We fail to look at our gut health. It's just like we talked about within our gut, there's this array of bacteria that's there for good. That's there to really, again, kill the foreign invaders and then serve you well. And when they kill the foreign invaders, they will take the genetic material out of that bacteria or that virus and it will save it within your system for the rest of your life so that it can defend against the future predators or pathogens better. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Our body's created so well. And next, 95% of your body's serotonin levels is produced in your gut. If you guys don't know what serotonin does, this is what your happy hormone is, right? And this is also serotonin, what not many people know, is help you set your circadian rhythm, right? Because your body knows when the sun rises, your body knows when the sun starts to fall, and your body starts to change throughout the course of the day. If you don't have the right serotonin levels or it's altered by a chemical or a medication or prescription, it's not going to do this really well, right? So why is your gut health so important? Do you want to be happy, right? Do you want to be joyful? Because can you guys agree, when you look at the rates of anxiety, depression in this country, are those rates going up or are they going down? They're going up at an alarming rate, along with rates of things like suicide, right? But we fail to look at this, look at the gut. But here's the pill, right? No, that's not how it's going to work. So when it comes to the 5 pillars of GI distress, these are actually the 5 things that we actually look at when we do testing in this office, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. And it's important for you guys to start recognizing the different pillars. And first one is maldigestion. And this is as simple as your body's not able to digest the food that it's actually consuming. So when we look at the pancreas not working well, just like we talked about, the pancreas actually produces different enzymes and not just regularly blood sugar levels, but helps break down things like protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Same thing with gallbladder. When your gallbladder is sluggish, your gallbladder is actually attached. Let's say this is your liver. Your gallbladder is actually this little bean-shaped sac that actually stores the bile that your liver is producing. And your bile is actually secreted when you start to digest things like fats. It'll actually emulsify it and digest it so your body can actually absorb it. And your gallbladder and the bile actually helps you digest things like vitamins A, D, E, and K. These are what you call fat-soluble vitamins. If you can't digest and absorb fats very well, you're going to be deficient in these vitamins, which oftentimes acts like hormones. And we'll talk about that in just a moment, okay? And when you can't digest fats very well because of a sluggish gallbladder or a sluggish pancreas, right, it starts to interfere with these things above. Because in the recent, let's say 2 decades, we have this idea that fats are bad for you, right? And that started years ago because when people looked at proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, they said, okay, proteins and carbohydrates, they're worth 4 calories per gram, and fats are actually worth 9 calories per gram. So if people want to lose weight and be healthy, if you take all the fats out of your diet, then you're going to lose weight and be healthier, right? That's what we believed. So you start to see all these labels like low fat, right? If you drink fatty milk or fatty foods, then you're going to get high cholesterol and get heart disease. Have you heard of that before? Right? But fat is so essential to every single cell, tissue, organ in your body. Because every single cell is actually lined with fat. Every organ has a cushion because of fat. And if you start to eat healthier fats into your system, you actually start to lose more fat because your metabolism starts to go up. You need fat to things like lower inflammation in your body, and also hormone production. Think about sex hormones like estrogen, testosterone, right? It's so important to have fats in your diet. So the first action step that some of you guys may need to take is look at the types of fat that you guys are actually consuming. Because fat's not bad for you, it just damaged fats or the healthy fats. When you look at the damaged fats, you're thinking about the refined fats from fried food, right? You're thinking about things like canola oil, palm oil, which is going to increase the inflammation in your body. You're thinking about also, when it comes to extra virgin olive oil, if you start to cook with the extra virgin olive oil, the oil actually gets rancid. And what we know to be true is that that oil is known to be healthy, but it will actually increase the rate of cancer in your system, right? So extra virgin olive oil is something that you need to be using on salads, right, when it's cold. When it comes to cooking, I want you guys to use things like avocado oil, coconut oil, because it has a high heating point, right? And when you look at these oils, you want to try to stay away from the plant oils. Does that make sense? When it comes to the avocado oils, the olive oils, you want to look at something that's been processed cold. So you're looking for words, things like cold pressed. Sometimes you may see things like expeller pressed, right? If you start to see the processing, or you can't find it on the label, which means they didn't do that. If you can't find it on the label, oftentimes they increase the temperature so much to suck all that oil out of that system that you end up actually damaging the oils there, okay? You need your gallbladder. So let me do a quick survey again. How many of you guys know someone else or yourself that had their gallbladder removed? A couple people right here? Yes? My mom had their gallbladder removed, and it looks so honest in the moment, but just like we talked about, your gallbladder has a major role in your digesting your actual food. And when you take the gallbladder out, it starts to overwork the liver because there's nothing to store the actual bile, and you can't process fats properly. So you may see things like constipation or diarrhea because your fat is just either clumping up within your digestive system or it's just getting flushed out because your body can't use it. And when you can't absorb the fats very well, this is where the vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K start to get depleted in your system. So if you don't have a gallbladder, if you know someone that doesn't have a gallbladder, you're missing a big part of the anatomy, so you have to do something to compensate for that. So you may have to take something like ox bile, which will actually help you digest the fats, right? Or you may need to take something like the daily essentials. I don't know if we have them on the shelves, but these are the boxes that full of the vitamins and minerals in there. Why? Because you're lacking those nutrients. You simply cannot get it from the food that you eat if you're missing that part of anatomy. So if you're missing a gallbladder, maybe the first step for your action step you're gonna write down is get the daily essentials or get something that has ox bile in it. And we actually have one, it's called the liver gallbladder complex. Second pillar, inflammation. So these are the things that we actually track in our testing that we do. See things like calprotectin, EPX, or fecal secretory IgA. So all these, you don't have to write them down necessarily, but these are just biomarkers. When they're elevated within your scans or the testing that you do, it means that you have a lot of inflammation within your digestive system. And what we know to be true about inflammation in your system is that inflammation chronically, right, is a precursor for many of the diseases, things like cancer, things like ulcers. Next, metabolic imbalances. So when it comes to metabolic imbalances, it's talking about how are your good bacteria within your gut producing what it needs to. Okay, what I mean by that is the good bacteria within your system creates all these things, that short chain fatty acids, and the most important one is called butyrate. So butyrate is actually going to not just help you digest the protein, carbohydrates, and fats better, but actually aids in things like your immune system as well. Any questions so far, guys? So another critical thing that butyrate does is that it actually helps you digest the fiber that's coming, that you're actually consuming as well. And the number one thing that's really disruptive to your good bacteria producing those small chain fatty acids is something called glyphosate. Who has heard of glyphosate before? One person in here? So glyphosate is actually one of the active ingredients in pesticides, herbicides, right? So this literally kills everything that it touches unless it's genetically modified to survive it, okay? And I read this shocking statistic that in the United States, we're less than 4% of the world's population, yet we consume more than 20% of the world's glyphosate supply. Right? So this is stuff that's getting sprayed down, and we're actually consuming this stuff. And then what we know to be true is it's wrecking our gut. But when you look at the studies, they say glyphosate is safe, right? But they never look at the long-term effects that this has on human beings, right? So another action step that you guys may take is look up something called Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. So there's a group called EWG, Environmental Working Group. It's a great website to go to, called ewg.org. And they actually show you when it comes to food, the Clean 15, these are the foods that you can buy non-organic and be okay. Because the biggest barrier to, let's be real, buying organic is the budget, right? It's so much more expensive. We want to eat healthy, but it's out of our budget, right? So when it comes to the list of food that's in the Clean 15, you can buy conventional. But the Dirty Dozen, these are 12 foods, and they change every single year. These are the 12 foods that you must buy organic because you're either eating the whole fruit or the vegetable itself, or there's so much herbicide and pesticides on them that it's going to do a lot of harm. So for example, I go down these rabbit holes of research when I'm doing this, preparing for these workshops, and if you look at one strawberry, conventional strawberry, just one, and you wash it, you do whatever you want with it underwater, it still has signs of 22 different pesticides and herbicides in it. Because this stuff is literally like wax. It's to coat your food, and you have to consume this stuff. So please look that up, and whatever's on Dirty Dozen, buy organic so we can avoid this stuff. Next, let's move on. Dysbiosis, so that's the term that when it comes to the good bacteria and the bad bacteria within your system, there has to be a balance. But when you have dysbiosis, there might be too much bad bacteria in your system. And when that balance is completely off, it's not only just going to mess with the mucosal lining here, but it's going to impact things like your serotonin levels, things like your immune system, right? So this is a term that we need to recognize that if you have it, then again, we have an action step to actually correct it. Because you need good bacteria within your system. I feel like we've covered that enough. Now, when it comes to the good bacteria within your system, probiotics are what you call that good bacteria, okay? And when it comes to prebiotics, these are what the probiotics feed off of, is food for the probiotics, okay? So the next action step may be to eat these probiotic-rich foods so that you can add more of that good bacteria within your system. Things like kefir, sauerkraut, whole milk. When it comes to dairy products, please look at the label and look at the terms grass-fed, grass-finished, right? 100% grass-fed. Because oftentimes you go to the supermarket and look at the product and it will say grass-fed. But they can actually put that label on there when the cow ate grass for about 10% of its life and it was fed grain for the rest of it to fatten it up. So you need to look at things like grass-finished, 100% grass-fed. Because if you don't, in the conventional milks, they're so filled with antibiotics, pus, right, hormone adaptogens, right, which is again, if you drink something from a sick animal, what are you going to become? A sick animal. Next, tempeh. This is something that's not as prevalent, but this is fermented soy, right? And the last thing is kimchi. What I love about sauerkraut and kimchi, this is what we call a symbiotic food, right? You're nodding back there. Symbiotic food. So when it comes to symbiotic foods, there's not just the probiotics, but there's actually prebiotics within that food so that the good bacteria has also the food to actually feed it, right? Next, let's look at the infections. So the infections refers to things like yeast, the bad bacteria, or even fungus that's growing within your gut, and by the time you get there, it's so difficult to get rid of. So when we look at all these pillars, guys, I'm sure you guys notice a lot of this stuff you may not even feel, right? How do you know if your bacteria, the good bacteria, is producing what it needs to? How do you know that what I'm eating, even if I'm eating really good salads, right, that my body's not digesting stuff? You don't know until you get to sometimes this stage, which is the latest stage, when you have a fungus that's detected or the bad bacteria that's detected. So we have to be not just reactive, but proactive in the system. And when it comes to not just your gut health, but any conditions, any problems that you may have, if you just follow these steps, then you're going to be well for the rest of your life. And number one, identify the cause, right? Identify the cause. Why do I have this problem? Just ask why. Don't be responsive to when I have this problem, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Next, remove the interference. What is causing your body to preventing it from healing or adapting to that said thing? The third thing, restore balance, restore vitality. It just simply means let's restore the body back to the way that it's supposed to function. Now, when it comes to identifying the cause, these are the top 5 things I found that's going to, again, destroy your gut health. And some of this might be very obvious to you, right? Number one, added sugar. When you start to consume sugar, it actually feeds more of the bad bacteria within your system, right? Your bad bacteria absolutely love sugar. And if you have ever tried to go 30 days without eating any type of sugar, maybe some of you guys have tried the advanced plan for 30 days, some of you guys patients that's been here for some time, and when you looked at the labels, right, of your food, were you guys just, the mind was blown by just how much sugar was in our food? Yes? And I want you guys to actually do that next time you go to the grocery store, right? Look at the labels of your food and just look at how much sugar is actually in our food that we don't even recognize. Like, why is sugar in this cracker, right? Why is this sugar within X, Y, and Z, right? Next thing is damaged fats. We talked about this before. We're talking about the refined fats, the fried foods. You think about the canola oil that's in everything. Palm oil. Again, read the label, because these fats are going to actually do more bad than good. It's going to actually cause more inflammation in your system. Third thing, refined carbs. Listen, I love refined carbs just like any other person, right? When it comes to the breads, right, the pastas, right? Sometimes the white rice, right? That one hurts, right? When it comes to the refined carbs, again, refined carbohydrates, when it's actually in your system, it actually transfers and actually converts into sugar. And your body doesn't recognize the difference there, you guys see? And when it comes to refined carbs, when you look at the label, there's more stuff is actually in there, okay? The 4, glyphosate. We just talked about this. Clean 15, dirty dozen. Try to buy organic when you can. Last thing, artificial sweeteners. This is a whole nother thing, right? The diet market, the diet sodas, the diet foods, it was booming, right? When it comes to things like aspartame, sucralose, if it doesn't have any calories, it must be healthier for you, right? But not just only the artificial sugars like that, things like Splenda, things like the aspartame potassium that's in all of our diet, Cokes and stuff like that. These actually, again, changes the way that your gut is balanced. So it kills off the good bacteria and it feeds the bad ones, right? Not only that, if you have children and you're having these artificial sweeteners in them, it actually triggers things like ADD, ADHD, right? If you look at the label of the food that you have in your homes, I guarantee you're gonna find artificial sweeteners in there. So if you need an artificial sweetener, the next side step, a good option will be things like stevia, which is found naturally. Okay, so when you think about if you want to quit sodas in your life, there's a great soda alternative called Zevia, which is actually sweetened with stevia. And you gotta be careful with this because sometimes if you have a lot of stevia in your system, it could cause some GI issues as well. Okay, but it's something good to actually replace it with. So when it comes to all this stuff, guys, I can't stress enough that when it comes to identifying the cause of not just what you have, but what's actually causing you to feel this way is to test. That seems like there's no other way around it. And in Max Living, as a Max Living network, we pride in ourselves, we test and we don't guess. Because I can throw a supplement at you. I'll manual this supplement at you and see what sticks. But at the end of the day, if you have SIBO and you have nausea and things like digestive issues, and I feed you more probiotics, it's going to make you worse, right? And you wasted that money, right? So I hate to guess when it comes to GI issues. So within our, what we call Max Metabolics program, there's different things that we can actually test in the office. And some of you guys may have done this testing before. So we have something called metabolomics, where we test things like urine and blood, and we see what is your body missing and what does your body actually have, right? We do some genetic testing to see if you're predisposed to anything. But what I'm really going to focus on is what we call the GI effects testing, because this is a gut health workshop. So when it comes to the GI effects testing, I pre-framed this before, but we look at the 5 pillars of digestive issues. Things like maldigestion, inflammation, dysbiosis, which is the balance between the bacteria, the metabolic imbalances and infection. What we do is if you want to purchase this kit, we give it to you and you do it all at home. So you finish the testing process at home, and within that kit, there's actually a 1-day shipping bag in there, so you can drop it off and it'll ship it to a lab called Genova. And Genova is a lab that we work closely with. It's actually one of the largest labs in North America that actually specializes in this stuff. And after they analyze it, we get something like this back. So when we look at this, it looks at things like antioxidants. It looks at the biomarkers that shows malabsorptions, dysbiosis, or do you have a pathogen growing in your body like yeast or fungus, right? There's a big difference when you do this stuff at the medical doctor, right? Or when you get a colonoscopy, because they're looking for pathogen. They're looking for disease, right? Are you already sick, right? If not, okay, we're good. See you next year. Let's do this again, right? But what we do is we want to look more upstream, right? When we look at the body, we want to see, hey, do you have too much of something? Does your body not have enough of this nutrient or ingredient so that it can function well? And it's just as simple as, you don't have to take a picture of this. It's as simple as, hey, get out of the red. If you're in the red, there's something wrong with you, right? And we have a way that we can eat a certain way, or we have a supplement that's going to actually attack that to get it out of your system, right? So if you're one of those people who have tried everything, right? Try to eat well, try to exercise, try to do all the things that the internet tells you to do, and you still have GI issues, this might be an action step for you. Or if you're like me, I'm a very impatient person, right? I just want to know, hey, what's wrong with me? What do I need to do? How do I need to eat, right? Because I have an issue and I want to correct it as soon as possible. If you're like that too, this would be an awesome opportunity for you. And I forget how much that, hey, Emily, how much does a GIFX cost?
Normally,
She specializes in this stuff.
I don't have memorized stuff. Normally $739, today at $665.
Yeah, normally it's $739, and
Whatever
today
that
there's a
is.
big discount. What is it again?
$665.
Yeah, $665. Okay, and what I love about this is that again, when I graduated with someone through chiropractic school who really wanted to specialize in this functional medical field, and he was shadowing someone in Alpharetta. And for the same exact test, the metabolic testing and the GIFX testing, I was like, how much does your doctor actually charge for this stuff, right? And he's like, oh, for the initial consultation and the testing is $3,000. I said, absolutely not, because listen, at the end of the day, you can afford it or you can't, right? No matter how much of a good intention that you have. The reason why we have it so close to the actual cost of the kit for ourselves is that we want you to know that, hey, if you have a problem, that you have an avenue to actually get to this information. And after we get the testing back, we'll sit down with you one-on-one and really break this stuff down, and we'll have actual action step for you. Hey, eat a certain way, take this certain supplement this time of day, so that we can correct what kind of problems you may have. Okay, go for it.
So is the kit a two-step kit or is it one? And the reason I ask is because you take the initial test, you find out what's wrong,
Yes.
you go on this regimen. 3 months later, do you have to buy another kit to find out if you've improved, or does the kit
Yeah,
come with two?
it's completely up to you. So that cost right there, what you talked about, what we just talked about, is for that initial kit itself. Okay, if you are my family member sitting here, I'll say just be prepared to test again, right? Because all of the, just like with chiropractic guys, when you get to that first progress evaluation, you start to feel a lot better, right? But if your markers are not objectively changed, then we don't really know what to do moving forward. But it's actually completely up to you if you want to retest or not. But I highly recommend that you do.
And we discount it even more at the retest.
Yeah.
That's discount.
All right, so let's look at the 5 essentials, the actual action steps here. So when it comes to healing your gut, you have to follow a systemic step. If you don't, then you may be stuck in this vicious cycle. It's called the 4 R's. And the first R is to remove. It's the remove phase. And it's just like how it sounds, we have to remove the bad bacteria, the yeast that may be thrown into your gut, your parasites that you may have, or the overgrowth, the just sheer amount of bacteria that's within your system. We first have to remove it using different herbs and different botanicals, different foods, and then we can move to phase 2, right? There's a specific way that we need to remove this stuff, because in the traditional medical system right now, in the allopathic system, the approach is to bomb the city, and here's what I mean by that. And here's a simple example. When you have a bacterial overgrowth, what do they prescribe you? Antibiotics. Antibiotics is actually one of the most frequently prescribed medication out there, antibiotics. But when you put antibiotics in your system, either through an injection or either through a pill, what happens to the good bacteria too? It dies, right? It's just like, for an example, in downtown Atlanta, let's say there's a group of terrorists in one building, right? And the government hears that there's some terrorists in that building. Instead of sending a small team to isolate that building and eliminating the targets and the enemies, right? The government decided, okay, we're gonna just drop an atomic bomb on the city of Atlanta, right? Does that kill the terrorists? Absolutely it does. But it decimates everything around it, and that's what antibiotics do. And of course, the studies show that antibiotics are safe. It's very effective in eliminating the bacteria, right? But when you look at things like long-term, when you look at the long-term effects, we know that the cancer rates rise. We know that the rates of depression and anxiety rise. We know that the rates of dementia starts to rise too, right? And you guys, we just talked about why that might be the case. Right? You have no idea how many younger patients or moms bring their patients in or their babies in to get checked. And sometimes when babies have subluxations in their spine at birth, it starts to trigger ear infections, right? Because they can't drain properly, right? I just met this patient not too long ago. He had 8 ear infections before age of 2, and every single time he had antibiotics. So it's so critical when you're growing up, you have a good microbiome within your system, but you have rounds and rounds of antibiotics, right? What do you think that child's digestive system is gonna look like later on? Do they complain about GI issues now? No. What is it gonna look like into their 20s, 30s, and 40s, right? No wonder why, as we look at the trend of antibiotic use in children, it does this. Well, guess what happens to things like ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression in children? It's doing this, right? So we have to do things differently. Next, after you remove it, we have to repair it. So we start to remove all this bad bacteria within our system. Now we have to go back and start to repair the tight junctions. We have to repair the mucosal lining, right? But if we haven't removed this bad stuff yet, you're stuck in this vicious cycle and nothing starts to heal. You have to protect and nurture and restore the mucosal lining and the cells. And then you have to start replacing it. And what I mean by replacing it, I mean by the digestive enzyme that's actually used to break down your food, right? So you think about things like the bile, if you don't have a gallbladder. You think about digestive enzyme that's from the pancreas to your liver that might not be produced enough or not produced at all because you don't have that anatomy within your system. And lastly, phase 4 is replenish or re-inoculate, as I like to call it. So when it comes to the re-inoculation or the replenish factor, this is where after you heal the gut, after you remove the bad stuff, after you start putting more good digestive enzymes in your system to break down the carbs, the proteins, and the fats, so your body's actually using what you're putting in there, right? Now you have to start replenishing the good bacteria. So we may give you the probiotics at this point, right? So that your body can start to heal and then go back to what we call vitalism, right? So this is what the 4R system is gonna look like. And normally at these workshops, we have these bundles for sale, right? But this time, we're not gonna have these for sale for patients who are not going to test, and here's why. When you test and you have all these markers and we know that we need to heal your gut, you're going to take these supplements to remove, repair, replace, and then re-inoculate. But just like we talked about before, if you don't test and we don't know the cause of your digestive issues, right? If I give you some of these products now and you decide to buy it, it might do more harm than good. Because sometimes people may say, okay, I know all supplements are good for me, so let me just try to take this and do this program, right? So that I can start to get better. But some of you guys might need to stay in phase 1 longer because there's so much stuff that you need to remove. Sometimes people need to stay in the replenish phase longer because your body's not responding as quickly because the problem's been there for too long. So I apologize, but these supplements are not going to be for sales for the general population. But what is going to be recommended for you guys, if you don't want to test, is if you're not taking the daily essentials right now, right? That's the daily packs, then that's what you need to take. Because these are the supplements I actually ship to my parents on a frequent basis because the daily essentials, they call it daily essentials for a reason. What I know to be true now, when you look at the farming industries and the nutrients that's actually in our food, the sad reality is where we simply cannot get all the nutrients that we need to function well with just food alone. Because I used to be that person that said, I'll just eat healthy, I don't need any supplements, why do I need to spend money on supplements? But now I just know the truth is it's not enough. So within the daily essentials, there's the multivitamin in there, B vitamins, omegas, magnesium in there. The reason why we call it a daily essentials is because when we do different testing like the urine testing, the blood testing throughout the network, these are the nutrients that vast majority, over 90% of people are lacking in the first place. So if you're not taking this, then that's gonna be the first step for you. And within the workshop, what's the percentage of discount?
10% off.
10% off, and that's the biggest discount that we do. Here's another extra step. We're gonna close up here soon, guys. Ooh, we're right on time. I love it. So every single person, out of that 1, 2, and 3 action step at the top of your page, this is gonna be one of them for every single person that's here. And that's going to be the gut, honest, truth challenge. And every single one of our seminars and our workshop, we have these challenges. Why? Because if you go home and you don't do anything, you don't have this accountability, right, to actually do something, what's gonna happen to your nose? They're gonna go by and you're not gonna stay in there. It's not gonna become your lifestyle, and then we just wasted all this time. So here's what the true, good, honest, true challenge is gonna look like. It's gonna be 21 days, starting next Monday. Why 21 days? What's coming up? 4th of July. And what do we like to do on 4th of July? We like to party, we like to eat, we like to go grill, barbecue, right? So Emily and I were talking about this when I was preparing for this, and I was like, oh, let's do a 30-day challenge, right? She was like, ooh, that's 4th of July, right? So
I'm just trying to set y'all up for success, okay?
Yeah. she cares about you guys. So we're gonna work hard, starting from next Monday for 21 days, just 3 weeks. We're gonna work really hard and we get to celebrate the 4th of July. Is that fair? Right? And here's what the challenge is gonna be. On a daily basis, you're gonna eat something called the advanced plan. Right? Has anybody heard the word advanced plan? If you're a patient here. Yes? I hope so. I sure hope so. So the advanced plan, if you have been a patient here for a long time, you got a book called the Align Your Health book. Okay? You're gonna go on chapter 4 that has all the nutritional information in it. If you're a newer patient with us, when you start to sign up for care, right, you actually receive a nutritional book. Can you actually hold one up, please? You actually got a nutritional book. It might be actually in your home care kit that you haven't, used just yet, right? It actually looks like that. It's called a quick start to your nutrition.
You would have gotten it at the doctor's report.
Yeah, everybody should have gotten it. So within that book, there is a page that describes what advanced plan really is. And let me quickly describe that. Advanced plan is looking at the quality of food that you're consuming. Okay. At the end of the day, if you look at the recipe book or the grocery list, it's just you're showing that you're actually eating food by God, right? Not by man. You're eating the ingredients, not food with ingredients. Does that make sense? So you're going to eat the healthy fast like we talked about. You're going to eat high quality protein from natural sources. Okay. This means, like, for example, if I ask a kid, what does a cow eat? What do they say? Grass, right? What do conventional cows eat? Candy, corn, even chicken litter, right? And that's exactly what it sounds, to fatten that cow up, right? And what we know to be true is that conventional cows, if you leave them alone and not butcher them, they live about 4 to 5 years, right? But they get butchered around year 3, year 4. So what does that mean? You're eating a dying animal, right? Conversely, if you eat a grass-finished cow that's raised in the pasture, they live 20 years plus, right? So again, it's not what you eat, it's what you're eating eat. Does that make sense? Right? So the quality of the protein is gonna matter, like pasture-raised, free-range chicken, right? When it comes to fish, you're gonna see in those nutritional books, you're gonna eat wild caught, like cold water fish, like salmon, right? Which is gonna have that healthy omega-3s in it, right? If you can't afford those high quality proteins, you're simply going to eat less of it, right? Why? Because advanced plan is designed to be very short term, but you're going to promote detoxification in your body, you're going to lose weight, right? And also you're going to actually give your body what it needs for that duration of time because you're gonna commit to it, okay? And during the advanced plan, you're gonna cut out all the sugars, all the refined carbs, even you're going to stop eating the fruits that have high sugars in it, like bananas, for example, like mangoes. Why? Because at the end of the day, no matter how healthy this fruit may be, it's sugar. At the end of the day, it could cause more inflammation in your body, right? An advanced plan, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it can be tough. It can be tough, but you never realize how good you can feel until you eat that way. Has anybody done that and felt that? You back there? Yeah? Somewhat? You guys have? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you feel amazing. Because for me, my biggest thing was, I thought I was healthy, I looked healthy, and I had ate, X, Y, and Z. But my biggest issue, even growing up, was my energy level did this all the time. When I would eat something, right, it'd be like chicken, broccoli, and rice, like the typical, guy's meal, right? And I'll eat that, and the next hour I'll just fall asleep, right? And you can ask Emily, growing up, high school, college, I'll fall asleep all the time. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I realized my gut was a wreck, my metabolism was a wreck, although I looked good from the outside, right? But the real situation is, if you start to feed the body what it really needs, oh my goodness, when your energy level is like this all throughout the day, it's amazing. Next, daily max T3 exercises. Some of you guys just try the max T3 exercise. So who doesn't know what max T3 is if you're a patient here? Everyone knows? Okay, no one's raised their hand. So max T3 exercises, every single person received a little, a bookmark that has an access code on it, okay? So this is the access code. If you have an internet signal, you can actually access this website, and there's free workouts for you guys, right? They range anywhere between 5 minutes to 23 minutes. And these are truly designed to, again, make you a fat burning machine. And the biggest barrier to exercising consistently is time, right? Or I lack the equipment, right? But if you have your body and a screen that you can watch these videos on, right? You have no excuse, right? What I love about the Max P3 program is there's actually another doctor, another Maximum chiropractor, Dr. Fred Roberto, just down the street. He's actually leading this stuff, he's coaching. And in the video, there's 2 to 3 different athletes that's doing the workout with you. And they have different levels of athleticism or fitness levels, so that you can just follow along with whoever that you're closest to, and you can really push yourself. And you can do that on a daily basis. If you don't have access to Max T3, they're usually $20, but if you're here at this workshop, we'll hand it to you if you don't know where yours is. Okay, so stop at the front desk before you leave. Next, drink half of your body weight in ounces, right? So water is so important to not just detoxify, but allow your digestive system to work well. Some of you guys might be constipated and you're just lacking water because you don't drink enough water, right? So you have no idea how good you can feel again if you start to hydrate. I'll automatically start getting thirsty when I talk about hydration. Half your body weight in ounces, but if you can push it to about a gallon, right? A gallon a day would be very ideal. At the first couple of days, if you're not used to this, you might be going to the bathroom a little bit more frequently, right? But you get used to it. Next, daily gratitude journal, right? So this is something that I personally practice. I thought it was kind of like woo-woo, but man, it really had a huge impact on me. And here's why I'm making you guys do this during the challenge, is because we live in a stressful world, right? Can you guys agree? And everywhere we look, there's something more to worry about. There's something more to stress out about, right? And there's a part of your brain called the reticular formation system. And some of you guys, I had this conversation with you. And the reticular formation system shows you in the world what's important to you. So when you want that new car, when you want that new shoes, right? On Barrett Parkway, you start to see that car everywhere, right? Right? You start to see it everywhere. It's not that there's more of those cars in the world, right? It's just your brain filters out what's not important and shows you what is important. What you think about the most. It's actually so cool how it works that way. So, if you go throughout the day and your day's stressful at work, you come home, the kids are crazy, you have stuff to do, the kitchen's never clean, right? You just cleaned it and now there's stuff everywhere, right? And you're stressed all the time. What is your life going to look like? It's going to look chaotic and more stressful, right? And here's the crazy thing about your brain. It wants to keep you from injury, keep you from danger. So when you have something good happen in your life, if you don't meditate on it and write it down or do something with it, it starts to fade. And you only remember the bad things in your life. That's why sometimes I might ask you guys, hey, what's going good in your life? What's the highlight of your day? Highlight of your week? Some of you guys are like, I don't know. I woke up this morning, right? I get that all the time, right? But this is why I want you guys in the morning or at night, just get a notebook, get on your phone, and this is just for you. Write down 5 things that you're really grateful for, right? And that eventually, if you do this more often, your world is literally going to become more beautiful. You're going to focus on the things that matters most. And then the most powerful things to be grateful about are the things that you either pray for, that you wish for, that you have now, right? So for right now, like, I love being in this room, right? Surrounded by people who want to get better. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for this office, you know? You might be grateful for that family that you may have, right? Or that baby that you may have. Whatever it may be, whatever you worked hard for, something you paid for, a wish for that you have now, you start to write stuff down. You don't just look around and say, I'm grateful for that light, this, that, right? Be intentional, okay? Next, adjustments and home care, right? That's obvious, right? If you're here, please do your home care. Please do get here on time for your adjustments. And if you're here set amount of time per week, that's so important. And here's why, right? Your nervous system is foundation for your health. We talked about the quote in the beginning. You know, all diseases are rooted from the gut, what Hippocrates said. I challenge that. I challenge that every single time. Because what controls the gut, which is your nervous system. Your nervous system. And some of you guys are guests here, right? But you guys all know that your brain controls everything in your body every single second of your life, right? In order for your heart to beat, lungs to breathe, for food to digest in your stomach the way it should, that signal has to get there through the spinal cord and the nerves. No matter how much good things you do, how many supplements you take, and there's pressure on the nerve that goes to your digestive system, like the lower back, can the digestive system ever work well? No, it cannot, right? Because oftentimes, I can tell you, majority of our patients come in because they want to get out of pain. Neck pain, back pain, headache, sciatic pain, those are the most common ones, right? But they're often surprised when blood pressure starts to go down. Sleep starts to get better, energy starts to improve, they start to get happier, their gut health starts to improve, right? Some of you guys have those stories, right? It's because when you start to clear the nervous system and allow your body to function as well as it should, right? Then your body's had no choice but to start to healing and function the way it needs to, right? So, subluxation. Hopefully you guys know what subluxation is if you're a patient here. Sometimes on the table I'll be judging you guys, hey, do you guys know what subluxation is? And like, no, I never heard that word before, right? So if you're a guest, your subluxation, or if you need a reminder, subluxations are simply when your spine comes out of normal alignment, it starts to interfere with the nerves in the area. Your spine has to be completely straight from the front, and from the side, you have to have these 345-degree curves. Not because it just looks good, but allows your spinal cord to be nice and relaxed. It allows your spine to withstand the constant force of gravity, especially when you're sitting in front of a computer, when you have to drive all the time, you're sitting in that bad posture, right? Due to the stresses of life, not just the physical part, but mental stress, because when we're stressed out, what does our posture look like, right? Like this, all curled up, right? And even chemical stressors, it can actually interfere with the nerves in the area. If those are the nerves that come out of your neck, can it cause neck pain or headaches? Sure it can. But I'm more worried about what is it doing to things like your thyroid, which controls your metabolism, your energy levels. At the base of your head, these are the nerves that could cause migraines. They also control the glands that control things like your sleep cycle, your mood, your energy level, your immune system. In your low back, these are the nerves that go down to your legs for side pain, but they also do things like reproductive organs, to your prostate, to your bladder, to your digestive system, right? Because I tell you guys all the time that, hey, I care, but I don't care if you're in pain, right? I do care, I promise, right? But as you start to feel better, just know that your nerves that's going to that organ in the area are functioning better too. Because only less than 10% of our nervous system is designed to feel anything. The rest of it's for function. How your muscles work, how your organs work. That's why I love seeing you guys come here on a regular basis, especially when I see kids and families come here, right? Because just know when the kids are here, what kind of things or diseases or problems that you're preventing them from getting, right? Because who wishes, if you're a patient here, to start getting checked earlier? I know I did, right? So I love seeing kids here because, man, they have no idea what their life is gonna be like. They have no idea what things are prevented because you dragged them in here on those days that even they couldn't be here or they didn't wanna be here. It's so important. So, if you're a guest here, your first step, that number one thing is to get checked. You don't have to start care, but at least I want you guys to know if there's some type of subluxation or a problem in your spine that's preventing you from functioning to your God-given potential. And normally that first appointment costs about $250 for the x-rays, for the consultation, for the scans, but we discounted just $54 if you're here at our workshop. So if you're a guest here, you're gonna stop at the front desk, okay? Next. Here's some action steps, guys. We're gonna close up. We're a little bit early. Again, I hope those notes don't just die in your app or just die when you get home and get crumbled up into your desk or get trashed or go stuck into that pile that has all your letters that were ripped open, right? So action steps are the most important ones. First thing, please review them when you get home. Review them and then ask questions. we're a resource for you guys. Not just me, myself, or Dr. White. These ladies up here, they hear this stuff all the time. They study it really hard. So if you have any questions, please bring them with you at your future appointment, okay? Next one, prepare and plan for the 21-day challenge. Here's what that means. Pick what day you're going to go to the grocery store this week. What time, right? Look at your nutrition book, look at your Align Your Health book, go to the grocery list. We actually have some grocery lists on hand as well. And think about what kind of meals can I prepare with this, okay? Now, along with that, what time, what day, well, it's actually every single day you're gonna work out, but what time of day am I going to do this 10-minute exercise, right? I want you to really plan that out and put it on your calendar, because if it's not on your calendar, what happens? It's not gonna happen, right? My kid did something, it's summer break, right? You know, my husband or my wife came home and I had to take care of them. We start to make all these excuses, right? But here's the thing. I can guarantee you have 5-10 minutes to do those exercises, to do that meal prepping. Because if you look on your phone, there's an app. If you go to the system, if you go to screen time, right? This is very humbling, right? I spent how many hours on Instagram, right? I spent how many hours on Facebook, right? Or on YouTube, TikTok, right? There's so many apps out there, but if you look at the screen time, just realize how much time you end up just scrolling. You can use that time for actual good, for healing, right? So actually plan that out this week and this weekend. And some of you guys may need to purchase that GI effects testing. If you have any questions, you can actually speak to myself or Emily, because she is the one that's leading this stuff. Some of you guys may need to buy the daily essentials to start actually plugging those puzzle pieces to your nutrition. Next, check for subluxations if you're a guest. Here are the upcoming events, guys. So on the 21st of this month, we actually have a Father's Appreciation Day. So there's always like very few gentlemen that's here, right?
So round of applause for
Yeah,
the
for the
guys.
guys that are here. Woo!
All three of
Listen,
you.
I'm so passionate, and let me say this for a second. I'm so passionate about bringing husbands and guys into these rooms, into events like this, and here's why. I haven't been in practice as long as Dr. White, but I've seen too many widows, right? And here's the thing, I do exams, I meet new patients, I adjust you guys, and so many times, you have no idea how many conversations I have is I'm trying to get my husband here, or I'm trying to get my boyfriend here, I'm trying to get my son here, right? But what do they do? They're stubborn, they ignore it, right? And listen, I get it, us guys, we're stubborn, right? We don't do anything until it gets our attention enough. But too many times I have conversation with the wives and the spouse, they say, you know, when the guys lose their health, who has to take care of them, right? The person that's been trying to bring them into this room the whole time, right? So guys, I appreciate you guys being here. We need more men here, right? So invite the husband. I don't care what they say, right? Invite them to different stuff, to wear it out, because one day they're gonna have a big enough problem where they're really going to need it. We need to get them in here before that actually happens. So Father's Appreciation Day, we're going to have some, free stuff. We just want to appreciate the fathers in this room and in this clinic. 27th, the community dinner. A lot of you guys actually came here because of a community dinner, myself included. This is where we actually take our patients out to dinner, and your only ticket in is to actually bring a guest. You have that family member, you have that coworker that you've been trying to get in here for a long time. So bring them here to the community dinner. We actually do it at Gibney's. It's at the Avenue. So they actually have a specialized menu just for us. It's grass-fed steaks, free-range chicken, organic salads. There's no cost. So again, bring them for the free food. Because my experience, my introduction to chiropractic, I was in my last semester of undergrad. And my mother-in-law comes up to my wife and I say, hey, you need to come see my chiropractor because he cured my allergies. And I remember looking like she was absolutely crazy. I was arrogant and I said, hey, don't listen to your mom. That's not how chiropractic works, right? So she kept persistently inviting my wife and I to a community dinner that the Maximilian doctor was hosting. And of course I went for the free food, right? But I'm so happy that I went and she was persistent enough to invite us, because that night changed my life. The information that doctor was explaining, it just clicked. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. The next day, I decided to drop everything I was going to do and I applied for chiropractic school. And years down the road, here I am, right? So you never know how far reaching something that you do today can reach, okay? So they invite them to the community dinner. I absolutely love it. And then inflammatory workshop at the end of July, we're going to have another workshop, inflammatory unveiled, right? And here's some information about that. We're going to actually go over, and we're going to discover that inflammation may or may not be the villain here, right? We're going to learn how the food companies start to hide the sugars and the sweeteners and what we eat. So if you are here at this workshop, it'll be a fantastic, almost a chapter 2 to learning more. Next, master the art of listening to your body. We talked about that today. And again, I love this last part. Build a war plan against chronic inflammation. What's a war plan? It's a systemic action step that's going to work for you. So I'm a sucker for action steps, so I want you guys to leave that workshop with things that you know that's going to be good for your health. We actually have a sign-up sheet at the front desk that you guys can actually sign up for today. And here's why we do this, because you guys can see we can't fit many people here, and the workshops are always packed like this. So if you guys love these workshops, who are here today, you get the first dip to actually signing up, and you get to sign up any guests that you may bring as well, okay? And the last thing, last page here, is just connect with us. This is our QR code. You guys can bring out your phone and scan it. It actually goes to our Instagram page. Kat runs it, and we're going to actually focus more in now to give you guys the good content that you need to educate you consistently and communicate with you guys if the office is closed, if we have any events, etc., etc. Okay? And I believe that's it. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah.
What time is the community dinner?
The community dinner, what time is it?
6:45.
6:45.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Thank you guys for showing up. If you guys have any questions, again, you can go to the front desk and come to me. Supplements, GI effects, etc.